start with at the temple. હું નેક્સ્ટ ટાઈમ યાદ કરીને પ્રિન્ટ કરીને લઈ આવીશ તો તમે બધા સાથે ગાઈ શકો. સોરી આજે હું ભૂલી ગઈ, મારા માઇન્ડમાં હતું ને હું ભૂલી ગઈ લઈ આવતા. પણ ઓફકોર્સ જેને આવડતું હોય પ્લીઝ જોઈન ઇન. નમઃ વિષ્ણુપદાય કૃષ્ણપૃષ્ઠાય ભૂતલે શ્રીમતી ભક્તિ વેદાંત સ્વામી इति नामिने. नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चादेशतारिणे. नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चादेशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Jai Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Events, thank you. And Colonel Prabhu, come in. Just okay, you're talking, yeah? You're talking, so we can let Sneha Jyoti then talk. In fact, we can do a change in the program. So anyway, firstly, Haribol, welcome to everyone. And thank you again for taking your time, precious time to join us here today. Just a couple of announcements at the beginning. The next program is on the 7th of June. We'll again send the circulars out for that. And really what we're going to do is we've got a new speaker. His name is Kunal Kotecha. He's very good friend of ours, but again, he's a lovely devotee. And we've got a new chapter. So new chapter, new person, new eyesight, new looks, and new advice, okay? So what we were going to do, as I said, one of the things we were going to do from the last few sessions is actually a check on how you guys are finding things, but also a bit of a test. So who was here last time? Any hands up? Okay. Ooh, 2, 3 hands up? A few more than 3, okay. So 4, okay. Maurizio was there. Thank you, Maurizio's got the videos. Okay, so last time around we learned in the chapters that the very first chapter, Krishna only spoke one verse, and we learned that actually we initially saw things from the eyes of Dhritarashtra with the one verse that he took. Then we had the things that were from the eyes of Duryodhana. Then we had the sort of compassionate view that Arjun gave. And then from the chapters that we come on to now, actually we get the answers to some of Arjun's really important questions. So can anyone remember any of the things that Arjun said why he said he didn't want to fight? Because if you remember, the whole scene was actually, he'd seen everyone in front and then he threw his bow and arrow down and says, Krishna, I don't want to fight. So what were the reasons that he gave? Okay, so your family members that you're seeing and everyone else? Any other reasons? We were given 5. Compassion for who?
Yeah, feeling concern for the fight against the family.
Okay, so again, family. What happens if you kill people?
Sin.
Sin. Okay, so one was he was sin. And what did he say? That if he killed everyone on the battlefield, what would he do afterwards? Who would he enjoy with? Yeah, so we're saying I wouldn't enjoy looking, I'm killing, again, if we were in a war and I have to fight against you lot, I'd be thinking, my God, if everyone here is finished, then what am I going to do? You know, so that was the third reason. And anything else? Anyone can remember? So he said, that the other thing he also said that, we've got, if you have this 4 million people that have come, because that's how many people are on the battlefield. The battle was 18 days?
18 days.
So 18 days, 4 million people were wiped out. I think 11 or 12 people survived. And it was a battle with no women, no children, nothing. So the men that were fighting were there. So he was saying that there'll be a gap in society. We have our elders, our vadils, and we have our youngsters. And all of a sudden we have a big gap to fill in. And we lose this gap. So that was one of the other reasons he gave. Then the other reason he also said was actually, we've got the men here, but actually we have to respect our women and our children and the other people in our society. What will happen to them? So this was the reasons that he gave out of compassion, and he threw his bow and arrow down. And then we come to the next chapter, which is now where hopefully Kunal Prabhu will take us through some of the issues and the reasoning behind maybe why he should consider fighting. Welcome. So we've got a few announcements later on, but what I'll probably like to do before we start, Kunal Prabhu, is we'll ask, when we started this program out, and I said we always require the blessings of our elders and our vadils. And we were very lucky that from the LCNL, Pratibha Ben was one of the leaders that actually helped us take this forward. So we just want her to come and say a few words, and then we'll pass everything on to Kunal after. And so before I forget, there are some Bhagavad Gitas at the back. When it says Kunal is going on, he may refer to the chapter. So when you're ready, just give an announcement, we'll pass them around. So thank you.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Hare Krishna. On behalf of LCNA, I would like to say that Gitaji classes were running since 2 years under our activity team, which you all have attended in DLC. We had few events there as well. It was really very well organized by Divesh Bhai, and Bhavisha Ben was our activity team member. She brought that project, and it was really very well done, well organized, and everybody attended. And I'm very glad that it is still continuing. Activity team is no more there, but under LCLN, we are still continuing these Gitaji classes. And I hope to see everyone every now and then, every month. They've done twice in a month. So very glad to see everyone here today. And I hope that you all we will hold few events in DLC, that's guaranteed. Not under activity, but we'll try and we'll organize some in the big forum. So thank you everybody. Hare Krishna. Kunal Bhai, thank you. You do a great job. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. How are you all doing? Yeah. So thank you all for attending. It's sometimes a battle just to get here, isn't it? With the mind. Jau che nati jau, jau che nati jau. So many different ideas, so many different thoughts come into our mind, and we made it. And that's a really good start for us to actually take the opportunity to discuss the teachings of Krishna and Arjuna on this famous battlefield together. You would have heard last time from Vaishnav Prabhu Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. This battlefield, Kurukshetra, is Dharmakshetra. It is the place of pilgrimage because Krishna was there. Krishna is also there in sound. So by us discussing Krishna together, we are inviting Krishna's presence. So the more we are tuned in together, the more we will feel Krishna's presence. He is very happy. He says in the 9th chapter, which we'll come to in a few months' time, that when devotees or when there is a gathering and people are gathered to speak about me, he says, then everyone will be very delighted, and he is also very delighted, very happy when we get together and speak about him. So it's a wonderful opportunity we have. Thank you, Pratibha Ben, and thank you to all of Divyesh Bhai, Pavisha Ben, Jyoti Ben, and all of the LCNL team that are facilitating this. Not so many places facilitate such gatherings. So thank you so much. And I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity also to speak here and share some thoughts on what we've understood from the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So just say a very short, quick prayer. In this prayer, we can just try and meditate on Radhe Shyam, Radha Krishna, to give us the focus, that in this time that we're here, we're going to forget about everything else. So many things are going on in our life, all of us. Well, let's pray to Radhe Shyam that we can focus on them and therefore invite auspiciousness, invite them into our hearts. If you know the words, please feel free to sing along, chant along. Otherwise, please meditate on the sweet Lord. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utavadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in the 1st chapter, Arjuna is totally bewildered. The 1st chapter is the yoga of lamentation. He's lamenting. What situation has come upon him? How can I be put in this situation when my relatives are just before me? He asks Krishna in the 1st chapter, take me to the middle of the battlefield and show me who's there, who's up for it, who's up for this fight. And they're all there. Dronacharya is there, his teacher, Bhishma Dev's there, his grandfather, and he just becomes totally bewildered. How can this be happening to me? Oh my God. And he gives Krishna some, as Vaishnava Prabhu put it, some super good reasons for not fighting. Some super good reasons for not carrying out this duty, which just seems too much. You know, sometimes we've got to make a decision, and both decisions are just not going to give us the happiness that we want. But somehow or the other, we've got to make this decision. It happens all the time, actually. But nothing is as bad as what Arjun had to do. This is why the Bhagavad Gita is the Bhagavad Gita. So he's totally bewildered, he's totally stressed out. He's put down his Gandiva bow and says, I can't do this. And Krishna, he sees Arjun. And he's saying to Arjun in the second verse of the second chapter, Kutashva kashmalam idam vishamesham upashtitam anarya jushta ashvargyam akirti karam Arjuna. If you want the Bhagavad Gitas, they can be passed out if anyone wants to see them. So this is the second verse. And Krishna is saying to Arjuna, how have you let such pettiness come upon you? You're a bit better than this, Arjuna. You know, you're lamenting, you're being a bit self-defeatist, you're acting like a bit of a victim here. You're better than this. He wasn't at that time ready for philosophical discussion. He wasn't ready. So sometimes people come to us for advice. This happens to all of us, especially if you're an elder in the family. Not saying you look old, but you might be one of the elders in your family. And if you're one of the elders in your family, someone may come to you for some advice. When we are giving advice, we have to think not what I want, what will be best for this person according to where they are at. Like we can't just think, we shouldn't just float into their misery. You know, they're miserable, we just become miserable because they're miserable. You know, my God, you know, we get so into it. We just get straight in. And we need to kind of just step back and like Krishna did, he stepped back and he said, Arjun, this doesn't suit you. You're a warrior. You're a bit better than this. He wasn't ready to hear the philosophy at that time. But Krishna needed to shake him up. Krishna needed to give him a bit of a kick. So he says to Arjuna, this doesn't suit you. This doesn't suit you. You're better than this. And Arjuna is saying, but Krishna, oh Madhusudan, oh killer of the demon Madhu. He says this in the fourth text. He says, but look at my situation. There's Bhishma, my grandfather. Would you kill your grandfather, Ugrasen? There is Dronacharya, my teacher. Would you kill your teacher, Sandipani Muni? Would you do this? It's like, look what I have to do here. Look what I have to do. And he says to Krishna, Na yutsya itti govindam. In the text 9, he says to Krishna, we're going to cover text 1 to 38 today. So in text 9, he says to Krishna, Na yutsya itti govindam. Govinda, na yutsya. I'm not going to fight. Done. I'm not going to fight. But just before that, he pleased to Krishna. And at this point, the meter, the conversation, and the tone of the Bhagavad Gita changes. In the 7th verse, Arjuna says, Karpanya dosho pata sabhava prichami tvam dharma samudha chetaha yat shreyasya nishtitam bruhitan me shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. I am your shishya. I am becoming your disciple. I am totally confused about my duty. I don't know what to do in this situation. Krishna, help me. Instruct me. As a teacher, just instruct me. I'm done. I can't think. I'm totally bewildered. You seem to know what the right thing to do. All this is going on. You seem calm. You tell me what to do. And Krishna is now realizing that Arjuna is becoming ready for philosophical discussion. So he needed that bit of a jolt. You know, this doesn't suit you, Arjuna. Arjuna says to Krishna, yeah, but look what I have to face. I have to face this most hideous challenge of having to fight my relatives. And then he says, okay, Krishna, actually, Shishyashtaham sadimam tvam prapanam. I take you as my teacher. Please instruct me. I'm totally Samudha Cheta, I'm totally confused. What's my dharma? He's not saying, shall I fight or not? He's saying, what's my dharma? What's my dharma means, what's the right thing to do? And sometimes we just don't know what's the right thing to do. And sometimes when we don't know what's the right thing to do, we think, okay, I don't know what's the right thing to do. So then we approach someone who might help us, tell us what is the right thing to do. And when we're in this situation, we have to take responsibility of our life. And taking responsibility of our life means taking advice from someone who's actually going to give us good advice. That's a massive lesson. That's a massive lesson. Because if you take advice from the wrong person, you're going to do the wrong thing. Especially if you're vulnerable, which is how Arjun is right now. He's very vulnerable. But luckily for him, he's gone to the best person. He's gone to a really good person. So when we're stuck, when we don't know what to do, we don't just go to someone because we know them. We should go to someone we know. We should think, which person loves us? Which person has some insight? And which person has no hidden agenda? No hidden agenda. They just want to help me. You know, it's like sometimes you go to someone, shall I do this business deal or that business deal? And they'll give you the advice that's also going to help their business. Oh no, I don't think you should go to that line. Go to this line. And you can buy from me. You know? So we need to find someone who doesn't have a hidden agenda. No hidden agenda. Their agenda is just me. And these are rare gems in this world. Where do we find? Where do we find? So we have to try our best. If we pray, if we desire, Krishna always reciprocates with our desire if our desire is sincere. And not only can we understand from this part of the Gita that we should approach the people that love us and care for us and have no hidden agendas, that actually, why can't we try and become that for others? We can love others, care for others, give them advice based on what's best for them. Be there for them. Right now, it's the middle of a battlefield. And Krishna could have said, hey Arjun, there's a war here, there's like millions of people around, let's get on with it. But Krishna took that time and realized, actually Arjun needs some time right now. When we are asked advice or asked to be heard, how much of that time are we spending hearing what the actual problem is? Or how much of that time are we just thinking, I can't wait till they shut up so I tell them what they need to do. Jaldi chup the jaye, just zip, and I'll tell you what you need to do. You call that person and tell them you're not going to their wedding. They don't deserve you to be there. All these things. You call that person and say this, whatever it is. So we want to become that person that facilitates what is best for them. What is best for them. And Krishna here in text 7 is being approached by Arjun saying, I take you as my teacher. And then he says to Krishna, Arjun says to Krishna, Nayutsya iti Govindam, that Krishna, Govinda, I will not fight. So he's saying, I take you as my teacher, and then I'm saying, I'm not fight. And then Krishna, in text 10, it said that Krishna has like a little smile. He has a little smile. He smiles. Not a prolonged smile, but there was a cheeky smile, you could say, or a small little smile. And then he went back to his grave self and says, Asochananva sochastam pragyavadam chavashashe, that, you're speaking learned words. But actually, you are lamenting something that should not be lamented. And if we think, this is 2.11, that Arjun's been lamenting all this time. And Krishna starts here by saying, look, firstly, even though you sound quite wise, I'm going to take you to another level. And this is something that we see. Arjun has given actually very wise arguments. Hasn't he? He said, I'm feeling compassionate for my relatives. I don't want to commit sin. I don't want... he gives this lose-lose argument. If I kill everyone, then who am I going to enjoy this kingdom with? Everyone's dead. And if they kill me, I'm dead. And then he says, so that's another argument. And then he says, oh, but if we kill all the men, then there's going to be unwanted progeny. Civilization will be a mess. So he's given some really strong arguments. And Krishna is saying, yeah, your arguments are good. Nanu stochanti pandita. You're speaking learned words, but actually, you shouldn't lament. Asochan anvasocastvam. Don't lament for these things. I'm going to take you to a deeper level. I'm going to take you on another level. I'm going to take you beyond what we are seeing day to day. And Arjun is ready. How do we know he's ready? Because he said it in 2.7. I'm ready now. So Krishna is now ready to give him that. So going back to this, sometimes when someone approaches us for advice, they may approach us and we may not give them the full advice straight away. We might just start with something. Let's say there's someone who's very depressed and they don't feel like getting a job. If you go straight in and say, you're just being a waste, go get a job, how are you going to look after your family? They're going to be like, whoa. But if you say to them, actually, okay, I understand, right now you're not feeling that you can even get out of bed, why don't you start taking a walk every day in nature? Just start doing something. And then once they start doing something and they're ready, they've got a bit more energy about them, they're a bit more alive, then you can say, hey, why don't you apply for that job? That will be good for you. And then they're ready, because they're ready. So everything's timing. And Krishna knows this. He's perfect. He's perfect. And he's teaching us so many things in the second chapter. And he starts off in this little section in text 11 by saying to Arjun, look, don't lament. Why don't you want to lament? In text 12, he's saying, Na tevaham chatu nasham, na tom nemejanadipa, na cheva na bhavishyama sarvayam ataparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. And never will there be a time that they did. So what he's saying is that I'm never born, you are never born, no one here is ever born. We have all been here eternally. We are all eternal. We are all eternal. What this means, he's saying to Arjun, we are more than this body. We are more than this body. Never was there a time that I did not exist. Okay, Krishna saying that by himself. Nor you. Na tvam. Nor you. Nor you. There's never been a time you have not existed. We've always existed. Na tvam neme janadipa. And all these kings. So therefore, if we've always existed, we must be more than this body. And we might think, where is the proof? Where is the proof that there is something after this? And Krishna says, Dehinoshminyata dehe komaram jovanam jana tata dehantara praptir dirastatra namuyati. In text 13, Krishna says that just as the soul goes from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly, the soul passes into another body at the time of death. Dhiras tatra namuyate. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So what is he saying? He's saying, look, and we can all do this experiment. If we all go home today and look at a picture of us when we were babies. We ever seen a picture of us when we were young? And we're thinking, like my mom says, my mom's here, she says, Kevo fine hato. Kevo dayo hato. Everything's past tense. Kevo fine hato, kevo dayo hato. Everything's in the past. So that same person, I say, Haji Cho, Mummy, Haji Cho. She's like, no. But why? But it's this. I'm the same person. I'm the same person, but I'm in a different body. My body is totally different, and it will get more different. I look like my dad soon. No, but, so we'll get older. We'll get older, and the body will start to change even more. Person is in that body. So Krishna is saying, just like the body has changed within this life, we've seen this body change within this life. We don't notice it day to day, but it happens. The proof is in the pictures. And isn't it like when you see a picture even from 10 years ago, you're thinking, wow, I look so young. And when you saw that picture 10 years ago, you're thinking you looked old. But 10 years later, you're thinking, oh my God, that's so... Because the body keeps changing. Krishna is saying, don't be bewildered that even when this body is finished, when this body has no more use, it will pass, this soul, the person within us, the soul, will just pass on to another body. Don't be so bewildered. You've seen the change within this life. So why are we so bewildered when the soul moves from one body to the next body? And we can see actually the symptom of the soul is consciousness. It's consciousness. If there is consciousness, that means there's a soul. So the example can be a person who is alive and a person who is not alive. What is the difference? They've got bodies, but one of them can function and one of them cannot. What is it that's different? The presence of the soul. Someone can say, oh, but the heart failed. Okay, but if you put a new heart into that dead person, I mean, Divyesh Prabhu, you're the doctor. If you put a new heart into a dead person, that doesn't bring them alive. Don't think so. Okay. Proof. So we understand that actually there's something beyond the body. And Krishna's getting into this now with Arjuna. And he's saying, therefore, with your day-to-day life, in text 14, Matras prashastu konteya sitoshna sukha dukkataha agama paino nitya stam stitikshasva bharata. He's saying that just like the appearance and disappearance of the summer and winter seasons, there will be happiness and there will be distress. Just tolerate this. Just tolerate this. So what this means is, and we know this, that when we're going through a difficult time, a really tough time, he's saying, if we tolerate, tam stitikshashva bharata, if we tolerate, it will pass. Just like the winter season passes and it becomes summer. Doesn't it? The winter comes, it goes, and summer comes and it goes. So just like that, happiness and distress just come and go. They come and they go. When there's happiness, tolerate the happiness. What does it mean, tolerate the happiness? Don't get too excited. When there's misery, don't get too distraught. Because they just come and they go. They come and they go. Just like the summer and winter seasons, they come and they go. So his advice is tolerate. And we might think, well, why should I tolerate? We already tolerate so much. It's just that we have our own preconceptions about what is tolerable and what is not tolerable. Because of what we've experienced in our own life and the personality we were born as. We've all got different personalities and we've all had different upbringings. So therefore, our conceptions of how the world should be is different. And therefore, what I can tolerate may be something different to what you can tolerate, and something you can tolerate, I may not be able to tolerate. What I think is a big deal, you may not think is a big deal, and vice versa. It happens. But Krishna is saying, just tolerate. Just tolerate. What's the big deal? Just tolerate. And we know, tolerating is not easy. It's not easy to just tolerate. Is it? Yeah.
Fully agree.
Fully agree. It's hard to tolerate the difficulties of the body. Yeah, the body can sometimes give us a lot of pain. And then we call acre surgery. Can I have an appointment with Dr. Takra, please? When- so, so we find it hard to tolerate. Sometimes we find it hard to tolerate when someone close to us says something, someone close to us does something. Hard to tolerate. But if we do tolerate, it goes. And we notice it goes. At the time, it's like, I'll never talk to them again. Rishta khatam, it's over, finished. And 2 weeks later, you're having dinner with them. Oh, it's okay, So it happens. So let's not so Krishna is saying tolerate. Don't get too distraught when there's misery. Don't get too excited when there's happiness. Because you're a soul. We're a soul. And Krishna is saying this soul, from text 15 to text 19, 20, he's saying that you're a soul and you're indestructible. No one can cut you. No one can burn you. No one can do anything to you. Najayate mriyate vakadachin. In 220, he's saying that there's no life, there's no death for the soul. When the body dies, you, the soul, will not die. Nahanyate hanya mane sharire. When the body dies, the soul will not die. It won't happen to you, the soul. And then Krishna says, it's just like in 222, he's saying to Arjun that just vasamsi jinani yata vihaya navani grinati naroparani tata sarirani vihaya jinani nava anyani samyati navani dehi. Just like we have our garments, and when our clothes get old, we get rid of our old clothes. Yeah, this is 2.22. We get rid of our old garments and we put on new garments. So similarly, when this body is useless, we get rid of this useless body and we just get a new body. So he's chipping away at Arjun. He's chipping away. He's chipping away. He's saying, actually, this soul is amazing. This soul is amazing. It's eternal. It's everlasting. He's saying that in 227, he says, Jatasya hidruvam mrityur dhruvam janmamritasya cha tasmad aparihariyarite natvam sochitam arhasi. He says to Arjun that one who, in 2.27, he says, one who takes birth is sure to die. And one who dies is sure to take birth again. Tasmada pariharite. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, natam sochitam arhasi, you should not lament. So in 2.11, Krishna is saying, asocha and anasocha, don't lament. In 2.25, 2.26, 2.27, Krishna is saying to Arjun, natvam sochitam arhasi, nainam sochitam arhasi, na sochitam arhasi. Do not lament, do not lament, do not lament. He starts at 2.11 with Asochan and Vasocha storm. Do not lament. At the end in 1866, he says to Krishna, Krishna says to Arjun, Ma Suchaha, do not lament. What's the story of the Bhagavad Gita for us? Stop worrying, guys. Stop worrying. I read somewhere, and I think it's a profound quote. Worry is a poor substitute for proper loving action. Worry is a poor substitute for proper loving action. How much time in our day, how much time in our life do we waste worrying? Just like worrying. And because we're worrying, we think we're doing something productive. Like, oh, mane vyadi thai chhe. Like, oh, best jai, vyadi thai chhe. And then it's like we have a gathering, vyadi chhe.
We have three problems: hurry, worry, and worry.
Yeah. Hurry, worry,
Hurry,
yeah.
worry.
So when we have these worries, what is the purpose of our worry? What are we doing with that worry? Or are we finding that this worry, what we are worrying about, is actually something we are taking shelter of as an excuse not to do something proper, loving action, not to do something productive, loving, and giving? How can you really help someone? Like if I told you my problem, and you call me a few days later and say, Kunal, I've just been worried about you the whole week. Like, okay, thank you for worrying. I'm actually going to start feeling worse. Oh, they're worried now. I've been worried, now even they're worried. And it's like, what did you do? I worried about you. And you're like, Kunal, I couldn't sleep the whole week. I've just been worried about you. And it's like, did you really help me? You didn't. What we're trying to say to me, if you're worried about, what you're trying to say to me is, I care about you, and I care about you, and I'm interested in you. But if you said to me, Kunal, I'm worried about you, and I thought, why don't we do this or that or this about your problem? Or actually, do you want to come round and have a little chat? And I might think, okay, this is some proper loving action. They're giving me things I could do. They're there for me to speak to. This is proper loving action. And Krishna is saying to Arjuna, it's amazing, text 25, text 26, text 27, Na tam sochitam arhasi, nanu sochitam arhasi. Don't lament. Don't worry. It's a big waste of time. And when we have a difficult situation, Arjuna's got the most difficult situation, Krishna just smiled. In 2.10, Krishna smiled. And some would think, how can you smile? But for Krishna, he's seeing the broader context. This friend has become a student. This battlefield has become a classroom. Wow. And then he got serious again. But when Krishna smiled, some could judge him. How could he smile? Such a difficult situation and he smiled. We're so quick to judge, isn't it? We're so quick to judge. It's so easy. They say something, someone did something, straight away we've put they did one thing, 1%, we took 99% and told someone else 120%. Isn't it? We do that, right? It happens.
Not always.
But Krishna is looking at it from a bigger picture. He's seeing that my friend has become my student. Krishna is looking at it as this battlefield has become a classroom. And what can we learn from this? That the battlefield of life for us, treat it like a classroom. What's a classroom? A place where we learn. A place where we learn. There's an opportunity to learn at every moment. There's an opportunity to learn at every moment. And Arjuna is ready for this. Now, he's ready. And Krishna is ready to be the teacher. And Arjuna is reveling in this knowledge. And Krishna is just giving it to him now. He's systematically, in these verses from 2.11 to 2.30, he's systematically defeating that argument of compassion. Yes, you're feeling compassionate towards your relatives, but guess what? In 2.27, he said, Jatasya hi dhruvam mityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. That everyone who's here is going to die. And everyone that's going to die is going to get born again. So, tasmada parihariyarite. Therefore, in this duty that you got to do, na tam sochitam arhasi. Don't lament. They're going to die in this battle anyway. So you might as well do your duty. It's a difficult duty, and this is the thing. Dharma, no one said Dharma is going to be easy. Once Srila Prabhupada, who's the founder Acharya of the Hare Krishna movement, he was asked a question by one devotee. And the devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, he's the guru, and they said, spiritual life is just too difficult. And it is. It's not easy. And Srila Prabhupada replied, yes, spiritual life is very difficult, but material life is impossible. Impossible. So this is Dharma. Do we want to choose what's impossible, or just choose something that's possible but difficult? What do we mean by material life is impossible? Material life is impossible means that whatever we chase in this material world, we will never get long-lasting internal peace. We will not get no matter how much money we earn, no matter how many cars we drive, all these things will not give us internal peace. No matter what relatives we have, that's not going to give us internal peace. But all of these things are useful and are very, not just useful, we can say are very integrated in a spiritual life. We need a house, we need relatives, we need to drive a car. All these things are integrated, but Krishna is saying to Arjuna, let me take you to that next level, let me take you up a notch to spirituality. Because when the goal is spiritual, it's difficult, but it's a goal. When the goal is material, you're just going round in circles. And this circle just ends with birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. It just goes round and round and round. And Krishna is now pushing Arjuna to go beyond birth and death. And we'll talk about that more on the 7th of June, is it? 7th of June, when we get towards the end of the second chapter. So Krishna defeats this argument of compassion. And then he says, from text 30 to 38, that, you're a Kshatriya, you're a warrior. If you don't carry out your duty, if you don't carry out your dharma, if you don't do what you're meant to do, everyone will look at you like a coward, that you just ran away from the battlefield. What's worse for a Kshatriya? Losing your reputation. Nothing can be worse. Dishonor is worse than death. Don't do this. Don't do this. And then he says to Arjuna, towards the text 36, 37, he says to Arjuna that Hatova Prapshasheshvagam Jitva Bokshashe Mahim. He's saying to Arjuna that if you die, you'll get the heavenly planets. If you win, you get to Bokshashe Mahim. You get to enjoy this kingdom. Tashmad Utishta Konteya Yudhyasya Krita Nischaya. Therefore, Utishta, get up. Arjuna, get up. Tasmad Utishta Konteya. And he says, Yudhya Krita Nischaya, do your duty, do your fight. Yudhya, for Arjuna, his duty was to fight. Fight this war. Do your dharma. Do what you were born to do. Do what's actually the right thing. And this defeats the argument of, if I lose the battle, I'm dead. And if I win, I've got no one to share it with. So Krishna says, no, it's not a lose-lose. It's a win-win. Hitova prakshashi svargam. If you die, you will attain the heavenly planets. Jitvava bokshashe mahim. If you win, you will get to enjoy the kingdom. So it's not a lose-lose. It's a win-win. And the next text in 38, Krishna says to Arjuna that Sukha dukha samay kritva laba labao jaya jayo. He's saying that there's happiness and there's distress. But do your duty without thinking of happiness and distress, winning or losing, victory or defeat. Do your duty without thinking of any of these things. What is he saying? Don't focus on the result. Just do the right thing. Do the right thing. Because if we are just thinking of the result, we may not do the right thing. We may not do the right thing. If we're just focusing on the result, we may not do the right thing. In terms of being ethical, in terms of being relational, in terms of being a good human being, in terms of our relationships with others and our love for others, if we're always thinking of what's in it for me, what's the result I'm going to get, then what happens, we sometimes start to feel not aligned with ourselves. Have we ever felt, when we've done something wrong, just full of guilt? Does that happen? We do something wrong and we just feel full. No one has to tell us anything. We just feel it. And it's like we feel it so much that we just know what I did there was not aligned with what I meant to do. Like on Friday evening, me and my wife had a little tiff, and I said a couple of things to her that I really regretted. Then I went up to my room and and for like 1 or 2 hours, I just couldn't function. I couldn't think. And I just kept thinking to myself, I'm feeling like this because what I said to her was really not right. It was just really not right. It was totally not aligned with who I am or with who we should be. And within myself, I just didn't feel right. And Krishna is saying to Arjuna, if we do things that are not the right thing, we are never going to feel happy inside. We're never going to feel happy inside. So whatever we're trying to do, if we do it with grace, if we do it with honesty, if we do it with a spiritual principle, and if we do it with a bit of detachment. Detachment means if it happens, that's Krishna's will. If it doesn't happen, it's Krishna's will, but I will try my best for it to happen. It's like if we're trying to buy a house, you call your mortgage advisor, ding ding, Dinesh uncle, how you doing? So it's like you're trying to buy a house, you're calling your mortgage advisor, amazing mortgage advisor. So what happens? They haven't paid me. I'm getting no commission for this, the best doctor, best mortgage advisor. But what happens if you're trying to do something like buy a house? If you're so attached to getting the house, you won't be able to sleep at night. Oh my God, this document, this, that. It's like you try your best, and then if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Yeah, it's Krishna's will, it's okay. It's okay. Even if others around us are getting worked up, it's okay. If it happens, it happens. We try our best. We try our best. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But we just try our best. And Krishna is saying to Arjuna, this is your dharma. This is your duty. If you do not do your duty, what he says in 38 actually is that you do this duty without thinking of the result, happiness, distress, victory or defeat, and then na papam, there is no sin. Because you are doing your duty. So do your duty in the right way and there'll be no sin. And that defeats Arjuna's argument that this is sinful. Krishna is saying it's not sinful because you're doing your duty. Neglect is sinful. If you witness a murder and you don't tell the police you are a witness, you become part of the crime. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna, if you let Duryodhan rule this kingdom, he is going to exploit everyone. And you had the capability of stopping that, but you decided you are thinking of running to the forest. That's neglect. That's more sinful. That's more sinful. So you got two difficult choices. And sometimes they let Sita go back to Valmiki Muni's ashram. After spending all that time defeating Ravan, getting Sita back, he then had to let her go again. Difficult choices. Dharma is difficult. Dharma is difficult. But we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. That's always there. And this is what Krishna is saying to Arjuna here. And to be honest, if we think about the whole story of the Bhagavad Gita, it ends with that. Surrender and do the right thing. Surrender and do the right thing. How long do I have? 5 minutes? 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Sure. So here at the end of this section of the Gita, from text 1 to 38, we can see that Krishna we'll just do a little recap of what we discussed, that Krishna, he started off by giving Arjuna a bit of a jolt. Kashmalam idam, just what's come upon you? These impurities don't suit you. You're better than this. Get up. Don't be so petty. He didn't want to. He wouldn't. And then he gets into the story. He gets into the philosophy of the soul. That you're more than the body. You're a soul. He understood when was the right time to say something. He understood when was the right time not to say something. This is austerity of speech, which we'll talk about in chapter 17. This is such an important lesson. Sometimes we need to say the truth, which is difficult, but Krishna says we should say it in a palatable way. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna everything in a palatable way. But we might say, well, that's not palatable. He said to Arjuna that you're being miserly, you're being weak. How is that palatable? Because Krishna and Arjuna have a relationship. Krishna knows what's palatable for Arjuna and what isn't palatable for Arjuna. If he says it out of anger, just because he's been taken over by anger, that's wrong. But if he's using anger, if someone uses, it's amazing, this concept of anger. If we are overcome by anger, then that is weak. That is challenging, and that can lead to many wrong things happening afterwards. But sometimes we can be in a higher position and just use higher position, not in terms of physicality, higher consciousness, I should say. We could be in a higher consciousness and just use anger because the situation needed anger. So for example, when Arjuna kills Bhishma later on in the Gita, in the war, he's not angry at Bhishma, he's not overcome by anger, it's his grandfather, but he uses anger to kill him because he needs to use this concept of anger. If we are trying to punish, not trying to punish, that's the wrong word. If we are trying to correct the child, and when we try to correct the child, if we are overcome by anger, then the child will get very scared and it'll be very, very traumatic for the child if we're overcome by anger, right? But if we just use anger for that moment or for those few minutes that it's needed because the child needs some correcting, that's maybe acceptable because then later on the child knows that you still love them. If you're overcome by anger, the child is worried, oh, do my parents love me? Do they even want me? Do they like me? But if the parent just uses anger to correct the child and then goes back to their loving, unconditional self with them, then the child knows, oh, they still love me and they just did that because they needed to correct me. So sometimes we may need to use different ways of helping someone else. And this is what Krishna shows us. He showed when it was the right time to give Arjuna a jolt. He knew when it was the right time to smile at Arjuna. He knew when it was the right time to talk philosophy with Arjuna. And he knew when was the right time to start defeating some of Arjuna's arguments. So Krishna is teaching us, in essence here, many different things. But one thing we can really draw from this is how to really be with others. How to be with others in a difficult situation and how to approach others when we're in a difficult situation ourselves. So there's some thoughts, some reflections on chapter 2, text 1 to 38. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and maybe we can open it up to anyone who'd like to ask any questions or share any thoughts, share any reflections from your own reading. It'll be really nice to hear. And please don't be shy. It'll be nice to discuss with everyone. Hare Krishna.
One question.
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask Arjun Kishore Bhai. Tamadikro Dayo Che, Valo Che. Still like that. So that's the first one. Oh, Bhavna Kir, sorry. But he's Dayo. He's Valo. That's it. So, just a couple of quick things. So, Kung, I really didn't introduce him properly. So, just so people are aware, your accountant? Yes, he's a qualified accountant. He's working full time. Kotecha, Lohana, in a Lohana hall with the 2 Lohana presidents and the Lohana community actually giving this discourse. So, very scholarly, very entertaining, and very to the point, and lovely insights. So we're grateful for that. But it's just also to say, look, he's giving up his time to share all of this knowledge with us in such a beautiful way. So initially, we'd just like to say thank you to you. We do want to, any questions? Any questions from you?
You were talking about Krishna telling Arjuna about कि जन्म से बॉडी मोटी उम्र मोटी भी है पर वही जाते जन्म लिए different right? But Krishna consciousness, I wonder if you actually don't want to be people. You join there to relieve from taking rebirth, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good point. So Krishna is saying, why is Krishna saying this? So it's kind of, he's just starting off this philosophical conversation. But as the conversation goes on, he does talk about this more and more. And we'll see that as the Gita progresses, that Krishna will start to talk about this. At the beginning, he's just sort of giving Arjuna the understanding that we're more than this body. And the body, we're more than this body, that we're a soul. And the soul moves from one body to the next. So that's, if you like, the conversation starting. But as it progresses, yes, definitely. The goal is not to take part in birth and death. We want to release ourselves from this so that we can go to a place that is beyond Vaikunta. Vaikunta means without anxiety, a place where there's no suffering. So, is that okay?
So a couple of the sentences here, I just wanted to ask. So one of them was the great generals, Krishna says, who have highly esteemed your name and fame, will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. And the other bit is your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? These two can be taken as, if you can look at yourself with a bit of an ego as well on the other side. That, what will other people think of me? And I don't know if that's the way it's meant to be, but...
Yeah, good point. So when Krishna says this, I think it's 31 to 32, something like that, isn't it? Yeah, he says this, and it's interesting because for a Kshatriya, for a warrior, this dishonor is very much more prominent than those that are not Kshatriyas. It's a very big thing. So, for example, when the war was going on later on, Arjun approached, Yudhishthir was being, Karna and Yudhishthir were having a fight. And Karna was actually defeating Yudhishthir. And when Yudhishthir was being hurt, Arjun went to Yudhishthir and asked if he's, trying to ask if he's okay. And Yudhishthir rebuked him, like, what are you doing here? Like, get up and fight. You've been going on and on that you're going to kill Karna, and here you are with me. Go and do your duty. You're not even fit to carry your Gandiva bow. So Arjun got upset. And then Arjun had vowed to kill anyone that tells him to put his Gandiva bow down. But that is his brother. That's his brother. So now what? It's a dharma again. But then Krishna says to him, just rebuke Yudhishthir. Because he's a Kshatriya. If you rebuke him, then that's worse than death. So then he says to Yudhishthir, look what you did. Because of you doing this gambling match, then you gave up you gave up our kingdom. We were sent to the forest, and you look what you did. And he defamed in one sense Yudhishthir. And that kind of counteracted that way of killing. Later on, we also see that with Ashwatthama, when he killed the sons of the Pandavas, and Arjun wanted to kill Ashwatthama. because he killed his sons. And then Draupadi said, no, why, we don't want to make his mother childless. So then what did they do to Ashwatthama? They just defamed him. They made him look like a bit of a clown. They cut off his hair and cut half his moustache off and, made him look a bit funny. Again, making him infamous. So so one side of it is that for a Kshatriya, it's a very, very big thing when you're a warrior. It may not be that way for us. And also the other thing is that in this section of the Gita from text 30 to 38, what Krishna is doing is just responding to Arjun's arguments. He's not giving the highest philosophy in this section. So in 11 to 30, he's talking about the soul. In 30 to 38, he's defeating other arguments that were raised. And then from 39 onwards, next time we'll talk about more pure concepts in the Gita. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
The chapter you just talked about is actually setting the scene.
Yeah.
Krishna is giving advice to Arjuna, and he's saying he doesn't have any hidden agenda.
Krishna doesn't have hidden agenda.
He
Yeah.
doesn't have any hidden agenda.
Yeah.
And so Arjuna decides, obviously, just to listen to her and take action accordingly. But how do you apply that in today's world, which is very materialistic, capitalist, and personally, I think each and every one of us have hidden agenda. We have our own interests to look after. So how would you apply that philosophy in today's world?
Yeah, good point. We all have our agenda to look after. So it's very important we look after ourselves. It's really important we look after ourselves. And when we do look after ourselves in a holistic way, then we start to feel internally satisfied. Because we're looking after ourselves, we're getting the right advice from the right people, we're doing a job that's aligned with our nature, not just because it pays well, because it's what you're good at. The two things we should look at: what we're competent at and what we like to do. If these two things are fitting when it comes to our work life, what am I good at and what do I like doing? And if these two things can combine, then we're in line with our nature. So we're in line with our nature with work. We are looking after ourselves. We're getting advice from the right people. We're speaking to the right people. We are having a daily meditation, spiritual practice, associating with the right spiritually minded people. Then what happens overall? We start to feel internally satisfied. Now, when we are internally satisfied, we have less of an agenda because we're peaceful inside. When we are not peaceful and satisfied inside, our agenda starts to come out all the time. When we are peaceful inside, then when someone comes to us, all we want to do is help them because we've got nothing to be envious of, because we're okay within ourselves. Agendas generally come because of our envy. That's usually the root of having an agenda. But if we're happy within ourselves, engaged within ourselves, we're in a much better place to help others without thinking, what's in it for me? What we'll be thinking of is, what will make that person happy? It's like when you help someone, we don't want to help them so they become more dependent on us. We want to help someone become more independently thoughtful. It's like how we raise our children, isn't it? We raise them to become independently thoughtful. So we want to help others to become independently strong, independently thoughtful. And we can do that if it's like self-care. But if we do self-care with the intention to be able to help others, that self-care goes a lot deeper. If self-care is just about me, it starts to become selfish. But if self-care is with the agenda to be helpful to others, that self-care goes very deep. And then it expands like an ocean. Is that okay? Does that make sense?
Quick question also. So we're in Kali Yuga, and a lot of these things happening in Sat Yuga. Am I correct? The war and everything. And you said about karma and the soul just moves from one to the other. And then they've expected that in Kali Yuga we will not have the same devotion
Yeah.
that we had in Satyuga.
In the previous
Do
yugas.
you think God, Krishna, is a bit more tolerant now?
Oh,
I
100%.
can commit more sins now than in Satyuga.
Definitely. In Satyug, even if you think something, you would get a sin. So even if you have a sinful thought, that's a sin. In Kali Yuga, where we are right now, our thoughts, at least our thoughts are not punished. Because if they were, we'll all be finished. So yeah, so there's the good thing about Kali Yuga is that Krishna is a lot more tolerant. Krishna is a lot more accessible. It said, Koli Kale Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar. In the age of Kali, Nam Rupe, in the form of his name, Krishna Avatar, Krishna has appeared. So just by chanting Krishna's name, he's there. And in previous yugas, you have to do big sacrifice, lots of deity worship. In this age, in Kali Yuga, all we got to do is chant Krishna's name. And by chanting his name, he's present. He's there. He's ready to have a relationship with us. And we can access him just by calling out his name. So, yeah, thank you. Yes.
You said, Kunalbhai, earlier, okay, find the right person for the advice. Okay? And you know, Cash, for example, Dinesh Bhai, I know he's right, he loves, he's caring, everything. And but advice lewa jao. No, I'm just giving you example. Dinesh Bhai, okay? અત્યારના કલિયુગમાં સારો માણસ કેવી રીતે ઓળખો બીકોઝ બધાના બે દાંત હોય ચાવાના અને હસવા એ પર્સન સારું હોય ને એ ક્યારે ચેન્જ થઈ જાય હાઉ ડુ ફાઇન્ડ ધ રાઇટ પર્સન
It's said that actually we just need a handful of people in our life that are very close. You know, we spend our life sometimes wanting big groups and big this and lots of this, but actually you notice that when we do this, there's not as much depth in the relationship. What is relationship depth? Relationship depth is, can I talk to them about anything? Anything. Can they help me? Are they spiritually inclined? It's important actually when we're getting advice to get advice from someone that, like we said, loves us and knows us and cares about us. They need to know us as a person, they also love us. And they have to be also spiritually inclined. Because otherwise, if the person is not spiritually inclined, we may get advice that will help us for now or for a few years, but is it going to give us the advice that's going to help us eternally? Like it's really going to take us, like Krishna did with Arjun, took him to that next level. We want people to give us advice that will take us to the next level. And does that person genuinely care about me? And that we have to be reflective. After getting to know someone after some time, we get to see that this person has no hidden agenda. You know? And even if we don't, let's say we don't find that person, then what I would say is, we can still take advice from a spiritually minded sadhu, a spiritually minded person. Even if we don't know them so well and we still want their advice, then take their advice intellectually and maybe at the beginning don't give your heart. So look after your heart and intellectually understand what they're doing, what they're asking you to do and what advice they're giving. And through that connection, as you deepen that connection, as you go and take advice from that person more and more, and you see that this advice is helping you, you're making steps, you're becoming less jealous, you're becoming less angry, pride is not getting in your way, you're able to find peace within yourself. All these things that are making you a better person, the qualities within us, our natural higher qualities are manifesting through this type of advice. Then what will naturally happen, we'll give our heart more. And then when we start to give our heart more to this kind of advice, we take it even deeper and we manifest these qualities even more. So at the beginning, always look after your heart. Take the advice intellectually and then slowly, slowly let the relationship build. But one thing we want to do is take risks. It's like if we don't take risks in terms of relationships with spiritually minded people, if we don't take risks, we'll get no return. It's the way, isn't it? We say in investment, higher the risk, higher the return. So even with making friendships and spiritual, we sometimes don't want to get out of our comfort zone. alokane su bhanwai ne. It's like, okay. Ambole ne. It's like we get into something like, all right, che, aloko sate, all right. And we just carry on. It's okay. We're not saying lose the friends we have or lose the relatives we have, but just add a few spiritual people in our life that we can connect with and that can guide us in that way. And sometimes even with spiritual people we might feel hurt, we might feel let down and think, but this person's meant to be spiritual and they hurt me and they're not, and they may not be.
Just like they are not internally.
But and maybe they are, and maybe they're not. But even those that are spiritual, but still challenge us.
And you argue, what is spirituality?
Yeah.
What is spirituality? What is to me might not mean the same to somebody else.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
we are on different agendas.
Yes. And we can always think, even if they hurt us, even if we get something that was not nice, it's like if you go to the wrong doctor, that doesn't mean all doctors don't know what they're doing. Right? Yeah, if you go... He's not the... But if one doctor gives you bad advice, that doesn't mean all doctors are bad. Right? So sometimes we may come across spiritual people that may not show good character sometimes. You should have seen me on Friday evening with my wife. You'd never think I was spiritual. You think, how is this guy speaking 3 days later about Bhagavad Gita? But what is it? When someone is in the shower, do we deride them for being dirty? Why not? Why not? If someone is in the shower, why don't we deride them for being dirty? Because they're trying to get clean. So that's a spiritual person. They're trying to cleanse themselves, but that they're not fully clean. So there's still some dirt, but they're trying. There's some trying. So when someone's in the shower, if someone's in the shower, you're not going to say, you're dirty, you stink. No, they're trying. They're in the shower. They're cleaning themselves. So similarly, if someone is practicing spirituality and we see some dirt, at least they're in the shower. At least they're trying. At least they're trying.
People do live double life.
Sorry?
People do live double life.
That is there.
What they show is probably not.
That is there. That's what we need to be. That with our intelligence, we need to be careful. That's something we need to be careful of. And that's with any relationship, be it spiritual, be it friend at work, whoever. We need to use our intelligence.
I was just going to say, sorry.
No, you carry on.
Okay. I was just going to say, it's just bringing me to this thing about energy. You said like energy attracts like, and the soul is so pure that when you sense either danger, when you sense that you're feeling uncomfortable in the company of certain beings, that's your own, maybe go, without sounding egoistic, if you're quite a spiritual person, you're going to probably sense that more quickly than others, and therefore you probably, detach yourself and then realize you're detaching yourself.
Yeah, and it's good if we can sense it, if we got some intuition, if we feel that the super soul inside is, the Paramatma inside is giving us some direction. It's important to take note of that and very carefully. We don't need to sound fanatic, or I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Very carefully understand that actually I may need to change my association if I'm going to make spiritual progress. But it doesn't mean we're going to do this from a place of ego. I'm now better than you. It's just from a place of understanding. I need to just, if I'm serious about my eternality, and I've got this many years probably left in this body maximum, then I need to invest in this.
Sometimes they just drop off. Those kind of negative people I find in my life, they just drop off. Something happens.
Yeah, and when we are sincere, Krishna sends the right people to us. And when we get difficult challenges and difficult people and all these things start to happen, remember, the battlefield can always become the classroom. Always try and learn. There's no coincidence. There's no such thing as chance. So everyone who comes into our life, who gives us a bit of a challenge, who gives us a bit of difficulty, what can I learn about myself? And what can I learn about how I can grow? What does Krishna want me to do? How does Krishna want me to respond? Ask ourselves these type of questions and we'll grow. We'll get to know ourselves better and we'll grow, we'll progress. Is that okay? Did you have something? Last one?
30 years ago, I joined Hare to start going every Sunday and doing volunteer service and patronship and whatever. And બધા ખબર છે શું કહેતા કે એ તો ધોળિયા નાળામાં વહી ગઈ છે ધોળિયા નાળામાં વહી ગઈ છે.
I got that too.
And I found actually associating with the spiritual individuals, I've progressed so much further myself by letting go and doing lots of things where whatever you've been just telling us, how Krishna has been telling Arjun to do, it just helps. It just helps by associating with the spiritual individuals.
Yeah, that's the key. If you want to be rich, you hang out with rich people. If you want to become a drunkard, hang out with people who get drunk. If you want to become spiritual, you hang out with spiritual people. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure there'll be lots more questions, Sarah. He's going to be back. Please come back if you like today. We'll give you more. Okay, just a few small announcements, please. It's great that you've all come. Just want a couple of people, special people. Brother, I understand it's your birthday, so Facebook has told us that you And also, while we're doing this, we've got some light refreshments. Just want a special thank you for Pratibha Ben Mao. And basically, he's provided the jolo from Bharti Ben, and it's one per family. And it's partly, I think she came first time, last time, and she was, one is just to show the fact that she was happy to come, but it's also related to, particularly related to Mum. So we're grateful for the support that you've given. And while we're here today, we're honoured to have 2 presidents, and that's what, three presidents, my apologies. Three, wow, okay, 3 presidents to grace us, and what I'm no, do you want to come in too? No. No. So I was just saying, do you want to come and say a few words, please? Oh, sir. Oh, she's needed outside. And before the speech part comes, my apologies for the name.
No, it's that one.
And one person I forgot to thank is, of course, Jyoti Ben and Aisha at the back for everything they do. So,
Excuse me.
Good evening, everybody. It's such a pleasure to see all of you here. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm not going to be long. I'm not even prepared. I haven't got my speech written or anything, but I just want to say that it gives me pleasure to see all of you, and you are so much interested in Gita sessions. And thanks to Kunal, you're wonderful. I really appreciate you coming and lecturing everybody. It's too bad that I can't attend all the time. I wish I could. So, and I'd like to thank Aisha, Divya, and Jyotirmoy for organizing. You guys are doing a wonderful job. And thank you all for coming.